Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. Today I am playing along with the Mix It Up Monday YouTube and Instagram hop, and this is the logo for Mix It Up Monday that is hosted by Anna over at Peacecraft Love. We are using this sketch from the Scrap Our Stash blog, and that is designed by Lanette Erickson, and I am going to turn that into a Halloween layout. So let's go ahead and get started. I have all of these photos from last Halloween from 2021, and we had gotten these brand new skeletons for our yard and we just had a good time like goofing around with them and putting them in funny poses. And so that's what I want to document. I've got a photo play paper Halloween collection that is from this year, as well as some stamps from a variety of companies and ages and stages. And I'm going to be doing some mixed media on my Vicky Bouton paper. So I pulled out just a couple sheets from that collection pack that I'm going to use as a background for this layout. I'm going to frame out the Vicky Bouton paper with the mixed media with an orange background. And at first I thought I wanted to use the more subtle pattern of orange, and then I put it against this skull print and I decided, yes, that's what I want for this skeleton layout because it just makes sense. So I've gutted that skeleton paper and I am stretching this design into a 2-page layout, and I'm really going to focus on those circles for my mixed media. I have some masking paper here, and this particular kind is by Gina K. I don't have a lot of experience with other masking papers. I do like this one quite a bit. It can be a little bit challenging with heavy wet mixed media, which is what I'm going to use today. But even though it can be a challenge, I had good luck with it. So I am cutting apart leftover scraps of this masking paper so I can get as much use out of it as possible. This is reusable a few times over, although it does get less sticky as you go and would work less well with heavy wet mixed media, but it can still work for blending inks and things like that. So I've got lots of circles die cut out. Some of them are cut off at the edge, but that's okay because I can use those to underlap my photo areas. And then the next step of this process is to lay out these circles in some kind of semi-random route. And I start with the largest circles and I will fill in with the smallest circles. Because I am stretching this to 2 pages, I want to overlap the seam between the 2 pages so that it makes sense across the layout. And then I peel off the backers for these circles. Now, when I use this masking paper, I will often save the backers and place the shape back on its backer. But because the backers can come apart in bits and pieces, finding which piece goes with which, or which multiple pieces actually go with which circle is going to be too hard. But I have a tip for you on saving these a little bit later. Once all of those are down, I am pulling out my really old Tattered Angel glimmer mists here. Now I'm going to use purple, green, and blue, but don't spray green and purple together because that's going to make mud. Those are 2 of the colors that contain altogether all 3 of the primary colors. And if you do 3 primary colors together, you get mud. So I'm going to try and separate out these colors with that blue because blue will blend well with green and blue will also blend well with purple. So I'm going to use that as my buffer color. Now, because these sprays are very old, I did have some problems with some of them not working well and I had to go back and change plans. And here's one of those changes that I had to make. I grabbed this Vibes, I think it's called. I'll put it up on the screen if I've got that wrong. It's a glimmery kind of spray. So I've used that as my green and I've got this darker blue as my buffer blue. So I just sprayed this whole thing down, focusing on the actual circles. I give it a bit of a dry. I do need to let it finish air drying, but once it is mostly dry, I can peel off those circles. If you try to peel them off when they're wet, you'll get them to tear and ruin your project and your masking paper. But once I have them all off, I stack them on a cut up piece of leftover plastic that was just a damaged page protector that I saved for this kind of thing. And then I tuck those back in with the rest of my masking paper. So the next step of this project, once my background is completely dry, is to fill in those circles with stamping. And I'm going to keep all of the circles the same stamping ink for continuity, but I'm going to use different images around. So I've got a variety of stamps across different companies, and like I said, different ages and stages of my crafting collection are represented here. I've got some Stampin' Up, which is what these little wooden stamps are. I am going to focus on multiples of that skeleton stamp, since that's the subject of my photos. Now you can do partial stamps if you mask off with some masking tape, and that is a tape from scrapbook.com, which is called their mint tape, and it's a post-it style tape, and I really like it, so I've been having a lot of good luck using that as a masking tape. Now with other circles, you might want to get the curvature of the masking and not just a straight edge of some tape. So you can put your die cut background circle back in place and use that as masking. And sometimes you need to do both. If your circle's too small and your stamp is too large, it could override the edge of your masking paper. So adding a little bit of masking tape to prevent overstamping onto your background will do the trick. You probably saw me outlining my circles with some pin work, and that is for a finishing touch to the circles and also to help kind of give the messy edges of some of that stamping more containment with a messy circle border. Okay, background is in place, glued down to my border paper, and now I'm going to mat my focal photo, which is a funny picture of the skeleton sitting there with my cat climbing in its lap. And then at first I cut this backing paper down too small, and I'm thinking, what the heck do I do? Because I don't want to discard all of this paper. So I just go back and cut another tiny wedge of this paper, and then I can just tuck that behind my photo. And because the color and the pattern isn't showing up a lot behind this, I'm just really going for that black, darker matte vibe here. I can go ahead and tuck it in place, and of course I didn't have enough glue there, so I had to add more glue, and now I can tuck it back in place, and you won't really notice that seam very much. And that was just to give it a little bit of a sharper edge when I put it on top of this ghost paper. And I really like the teal in this photo play collection, and I'm pretty sure that collection is actually available over at the Peacecraft Love shop, and so I will link you up to that, as well as I know the Vicky Bouton paper is available there also. I am going to use a lot of foam tape to pop up all of my photos, including this focal photo with its mat, and once I have all of those done, I can pop them into place, and I'm trying to align them so that I can see the most of those circles as possible. I wish I had stamped that little haunted house in another area, but I didn't have all of those spaces in my head as I was going, so it is what it is. All right, now I'm looking at my sketch again to figure out what else I want to do. The title in the sketch is at the top of the main photos. I'm going to put it at the bottom, and then instead of strips of journaling, I'm going to use a stamped line, so that will give you that kind of horizontal feel that the strips are doing. And then just a few embellishments to this one, because that mixed media background really is kind of the star of the show. I am just kind of filling in some of the boring space of this layout, adding a couple of stickers that lend to the theme a little bit, and trimming them down as they're too big to fit. And I do believe I go in and add one more skull sticker next to my title. Oh, before that, I added one more sticker under my journaling, and I'm just lightly putting that in place until I get my journaling written. And in case I need to extend my lines, then I can add it there afterwards. Let's see what's going on. I add a couple of little circle stickers. It has like this cauldron with bubbles, so I grab the extra bubbles off of the sticker sheet, and I'm adding those more as circles. And that is where I add the skull next to my title. And I'm going to call it good at that point because, like I said, those circles are the star of the show. So as we take a look at some of these close-ups on the way out, I want to remind you that this is a hop. So down below in my show description is a link to all the other crafters playing along on this hop. Go check out their videos, give them some love. And if you don't know about the Peacecraft Love Facebook group and scrapbook shop, go check out those links as well. I will be back at the end of this week with another video for you. And until then, I hope you have an artful day.